Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have a ton of updates to share about Donald Trump's legal issues. First, on Friday, an appeals court partially reinstated Trump's gag order issued by Tanya Chutkan. They stated in their ruling that Trump and others involved in the case are prohibited from making public statements about known or, quote, reasonably foreseeable witnesses concerning their potential participation. The appeals panel also wrote, quote, the risk is particularly significant that public statements about certain witnesses' involvement in the case may intimidate other potential witnesses from providing testimony, encourage them to alter their testimony, or dissuade them from cooperating with investigators. Trump and others are also forbidden from making public statements about parties to the cause, including court staff and their family members. The only exception is Special Counsel Jack Smith and his team of prosecutors. Trump can say whatever he wants about the prosecution team within reason. So now we'll have to see if Trump takes the matter to the Supreme Court. And speaking of which, Special Counsel Jack Smith just did an end run around Trump, and he petitioned the Supreme Court to rule on Trump's claim of absolute immunity in this case. He did this in anticipation of Trump taking it to the Supreme Court, basically to speed up the process. And if you aren't familiar with this whole situation, here's the deal. Trump claims because he was president, his actions on January 6th and in the months leading up to that day are protected by presidential immunity, so he can't face legal consequences. Judge Chutkan ruled against his arguments, and she said, basically, you're not a king. You can't evade criminal liability because you were president, blah, blah, blah. He also tried to make a First Amendment free speech argument. Judge Chutkan also shot that down. She said that it's, well established the First Amendment doesn't protect any speech that's used as an instrument of crime. So Trump is appealing that decision to an appeals court, and he wants them to put the whole case on hold while they're reviewing that matter. Alternatively, he asked, just dismiss the case entirely. Case isn't logical, it isn't legit, so just get rid of it. Well, rather than wait for all of this to wind its way up to the Supreme Court, which Jack Smith knows is Trump's whole game, that potentially pushes the March 4th trial date back. So Jack Smith went straight to the source. He asked the Supreme Court this morning to expedite a ruling before they take a break for the holiday season, before this term ends. So he just outmaneuvered Trump and could beat him at his own game of delay, delay, delay. And we already have news because the Supreme Court, although they didn't say, yes, for sure, we are going to take up the case, what they've said is they've responded almost immediately. And they told Trump's team, you have to have a response in to their filing, to Jack Smith's team's filing, by next Wednesday. And then they will review what Jack Smith submitted, they will review what Trump submitted, and then they will determine next Wednesday or, within a short period of time thereafter, if they want to take up the full case. So we will know before Christmas, it seems. In related news, a special counsel filing shared details about some of the evidence that they'll present at trial. Prosecutors pointed to previous Trump claims about election fraud in 2012. That was when Mitt Romney ran against Barack Obama. Also, again, in 2016, he made the same claims when he thought he might lose to Hillary Clinton. They cited Trump's repeated refusal to commit to a peaceful transfer of power. The prosecutor reiterated details as well about Trump's attempt to overturn the election. And then they mentioned something really interesting. They mentioned an unindicted co-conspirator who worked for Trump's campaign. The filing notes that this person, quote, encouraged rioting and other methods of obstruction when he learned that the vote count was trending in favor of the defendant's opponent. And then there's this long section that was redacted, which is curious. And it makes me wonder, are there more charges going to be coming for this unindicted co-conspirator? And then in the text immediately after that redacted passage, it says in part, quote, the government will also show that around the time of these messages, An election official at the TCF Center observed that as Biden began to take the lead, a large number of untrained individuals flooded the TCF Center and began making illegitimate and aggressive challenges to the vote count. Thereafter, Trump made repeated false claims regarding election activities at the TCF Center, when in truth, his agent was seeking to cause a riot to disrupt the count. So, could be a case for collusion there. In the next section, it states that Trump and co-conspirator 1 retaliated against a chief counsel to the Republican National Committee for publicly refuting Trump's election fraud claims. And they say this retaliation occurred as late as the summer of 2021. So this went on well after the election. So then there's also another large redacted section. Further down in the filing, the prosecutor noted that Trump had supported the January 6th participants. He continues to do so. They point to his own words as evidence, saying that he's promised to pardon them if he's reelected, plus his admission that he had the ability to influence their actions on January 6th. And the special counsel also mentioned his involvement with their January 6th choir. Not a good look. Meanwhile, Trump's attorneys have demanded all information of undercover agents in the crowd on January 6th. Their argument is that they should have stopped the Capitol attack instead of Trump. I mean, good luck selling that one, right? I mean, commander-in-chief, those words sound familiar. And what these people don't seem to understand is that an informant and an undercover agent is not the same thing. There were informants who were members of the Proud Bigots and other groups who were there, but they were not agents or members of the FBI. They were yahoos, like so many others. And for one reason or another, they gave information to the FBI. And it came out in the Proud Bigots trials that they were mostly informing on Antifa and BLM. So anyway, there's that. They're also demanding a ton of information about the 2020 election because Trump's team is still trying to say he truly believed there was fraud. Next up is news about the civil cases brought against Trump by Capitol police officers and Congress members. As with the criminal case, Trump's attorneys tried to argue that he can't be sued because he was acting in his capacity as the president. So the appeals panel disagreed. They said, quote, "When a first-term president opts to seek a second term, his campaign to win re-election is not an official presidential act." So that's not going to help him in court with the Supreme Court. Also, they said, quote, "He is acting as office seeker, not office holder." The three-judge panel was unanimous in this denial of Trump's request to dismiss the case, and that included one Trump appointee on this panel. As with the criminal case, it's possible this is going to be taken to the Supreme Court. Trump also received bad news related to his Georgia RICO case. His attorneys asked the judge and Fani Willis to help them in obtaining information about evidence and witnesses that Jack Smith has in his DC coup case. They argued that, the facts of the cases overlap. Well, the judge said, no, not right now. Why don't you go subpoena that information? Let me know how that turns out. So Trump's attorneys are also trying to get the Georgia trial delayed for years. They're literally arguing that, if the trial begins August of 2024, as proposed by the DA, it would be tantamount to election interference. But the judge told his legal team, okay, answer this. If he wins the election, can he be prosecuted then? Can we schedule the trial then? Would that be a good time? And he got Trump's attorneys to admit, no, that really wouldn't be good for him either. So basically, he can't be bothered with a criminal trial. He can't be bothered with prosecution until after his potential presidency ends in 2028. So the judge heard those arguments. That was at a Friday hearing. He said he's not going to make a trial decision this year, so we won't know until next year. This is Judge McAfee. And he also said he's still weighing the idea of splitting up the defendants into two groups. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Meanwhile, emails between Fani Willis and Trump's team have gotten kind of heated. They're getting a little, it's getting hot in here. She is just savage. In one email, she wrote that Trump's attorneys have a, quote, long road ahead. And in regard to Trump and the other defendants, she said, quote, long after these folks are in jail, we will still be practicing law. And when one of Trump's attorneys complained about so-called missing discovery evidence, Willis told him, quote, no one placed me here, and I have earned this title. I've never practiced law by hiding the ball. I've enjoyed beating folks by making sure they have the entire file. And a list of potential witnesses was just released, and it should really keep Trump and the others up at night because it includes Cassidy Hutchinson, Bill Barr, Mike Pence, Jeffrey Rosen, so many others who testified already at the January 6th Select Committee hearings, and they completely destroyed Trump and his minions. So that should be fun. Next up is news about the classified documents case. Trump attorney Jennifer Little, this is a Trump attorney, she sat for the grand jury and she told them that she, quote, very clearly warned Trump, quote, you've got to comply with the subpoena for the records he had in his possession. So Little also confirmed that Trump's absolutely, that was her exact word, absolutely understood that, you know, if he failed to fully comply with the subpoena, and if he claimed that he had done so, that he had turned everything over, that it would be a crime. And then she also told the investigators that she made it clear to Trump that the subpoena was much more serious than the demands that they had been receiving. You know, the National Archives had been asking nicely. So if Judge Cannon was not the judge presiding over this case, this would be a slam dunk. Even with a South Florida jury, I truly believe he would be in prison because they appear to have, I mean, we know they have the evidence, right? They've had all the evidence, but they appear to have motive, intent. I mean, the crimes were proven long ago. But anyway, last but not least, a new lawsuit has been filed to try to keep Trump off the ballot in Oregon. A group called Free Speech for People has filed a lawsuit. They filed it on behalf of 5 Oregon voters because the Secretary of State in Oregon announced that she lacks the legal authority to keep Trump off the ballot, off the primary ballot. So I will keep an eye on that as well, and I will let you know how that goes down. But a lot going on. Anyway, I will let you know when I hear more on all these fronts. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.